Police are negotiating the surrender of actor Jussie Smollett.
Jussie Smollett charged with disorderly conduct, filing a false police report, a felony.
The national media was just too tempting for them not to jump to the conclusions that they did, and the result is that a lot of them today have egg all over their face.
After nearly 2 years, the Mueller probe may finally be coming to an end.
Should the Mueller report be released while you're abroad next week?
That'll be totally up to the new Attorney General.
The woman from Alabama who left to join ISIS and marry an Islamic State fighter will not be getting her wish to return to the United States.
The FBI's former top attorney wanted to charge Hillary Clinton.
He was basically given a binder with the classified emails, with documents. He was appalled. He didn't see any other way around it.
Former 60 Minutes correspondent journalist Lara Logan bravely stating what so many people already know.
If there are any journalists who are not beating the same drum and giving the same talking points, then we pay the price.
On the table, Brian.
Right now it's glass. I can't, or else I would.
It's very
fingerprint. Hey, thank you very much for joining us. We've got a really busy 3 hours. It starts right now with this story. Straight to a Fox News alert. Empire actor Jussie Smollett is now a suspect in the alleged hate crime against himself. He lied to cops.
The actor charged with filing a false report with Chicago police, which could send him to prison if he is found guilty.
All right, Matt Finn has been all over this. He has not been sleeping. He is there in Chicago where Smollett will face a judge, but he didn't show up yesterday, right, Matt?
No, last check with Chicago police late last night, he had not turned himself in. At this hour, no word yet that he has surrendered. His attorneys are aware of these charges. Right now, Jussie Smollett has to turn himself into police, be arrested, and then appear in bond court. Chicago police detectives testified. They presented evidence to a grand jury, and the attorneys for those two brothers, the Osundaro brothers, say they testified for 2.5 hours before the grand jury, before charges were approved. Police say the brothers were caught on surveillance in the area the night of the attack. CBS News reports they confessed to the alleged hoax, and new surveillance video apparently shows the brothers purchasing supplies, including black masks and red hats. The attorney for those two brothers say they do not have a plea deal, but would not expand on why the brothers got involved with the alleged scheme.
I think Jussie Smollett should come clear because the truth will set him free. I think that Jussie's conscience is probably not letting him sleep right now, so I think he should unload that conscience and just come out and tell the American people what actually happened.
Smollett's attorneys released a statement reading, quote, "Like any other citizen, Mr. Smollett enjoys the presumption of innocence, particularly when there has been an investigation like this one, where information, both true and false, has been repeatedly leaked. Given these circumstances, we intend to conduct a thorough investigation and to mount an aggressive defense." The attorney and Chicago police say right now there are no charges expected for the two Osundaro brothers. Brian, Ainsley, Steve.
That's interesting stuff. All right, Matt, thank you very much. So 1:30 this afternoon in Chicago, he will go before that judge for the bond hearing. Police, ultimately it comes down to he filed a false police report alleging he was a victim of a hate crime. Doesn't look like that's real. What is real, though, is he is lawyered up. He has now hired Mark Geragos to defend him in Chicago.
Against this Class 4 felony. The potential punishments for this felony disorderly conduct charge: imprisonment for 1 to 3 years, could also receive probation and up to $25,000 in fines.
Meanwhile, just to refresh your memory, if you don't follow Empire, or you didn't know who this guy was a couple of weeks ago, remember what he accused of happening to him. Remember what he said. Remember the potential, if this had been true, maybe even race riots in major cities across this country. Here's what he claimed to Good Morning America on Valentine's Day.
He said, "This MAGA country punches me right in the face." So I punched it back. I noticed the rope around my neck and I started screaming.
Why did you hesitate to call the police?
There's a level of pride there. As a gay man, you were considered somehow to be weak, and I'm not weak.
We're going to have William Kelly on the show coming up. He's a radio show host, and he's from Chicago, and he's furious. He said, you know, all the crime that's happening there in Chicago, this is taking away the resources from the true crimes if this was a hoax.
And apparently, I heard Mark Furman last night on the channel say that there were 24 detectives working on this case, which is an extraordinarily large number. Some of the red flags to the cops, law enforcement found it weird that when they interviewed Jussie after the alleged attack, he kept wearing the rope, the noose they kept it around his neck for 42 minutes after the attack. He did. Also, they found it suspicious that when he took them where the alleged crime happened, he said, well, luckily, right behind me, right over there, and he pointed up at a surveillance camera. He said, luckily, that camera got it all on tape. And the cops look at it, and they go, you know what, that's pointing the other direction. But the brothers did tell, apparently, the grand jury yesterday that they rehearsed it. They went through all sorts of things. Jussie scouted the location, and they rehearsed the attack, so they knew exactly where it would happen.
Meanwhile, Britt Hume sees this collection of incidents, whether it's the Covington kids with the MAGA hats on, whether it's a series of candidates who thirst to call the president a misogynist, a racist, a sexist on a daily, almost an hourly basis. And then this, obviously somebody who spent a great deal of his time campaigning against the president. He says, been very vociferous in my hatred for what he does and what he stands for. This is a scenario in which everybody wants one conclusion. Listen.
There's a real distinction to be made here between the way a lot of the local media out in Chicago handled this and the way the national media handled it. The local media in Chicago did pretty well on this story, and I think the reason was that to them it was a local crime story made into a big story by the fact that we had a celebrity as the alleged victim. The national media, I think, looked at this story and decided it was a Trump story, because in the national media, particularly in Washington, there's only one story all the time, and it's Donald Trump. And to most of them, it's Donald Trump and how awful and dangerous he is. So any story that, alleges that Trump supporters have, in the crudest and most bigoted way have assaulted somebody fits right into their view of Trump and of his supporters.
Well, Jussie Smollett is apparently his legal team is working out a surrender with the police. And, of course, as we said, he'll be in front of a judge today at 1:30 Chicago time.
Meanwhile, on Mic Drop, it is a podcast hosted by an esteemed Navy SEAL who's been featured on 60 Minutes. Larry Logan spoke for 2 hours. But everyone's focused on what this outstanding reporter said about media in America today. There is no standard for journalists. There's only one source for journalists these days. People seem to put opinions when they're supposed to be reporting stories. And she says, I am committing career suicide when I say this. And that did not stop her from continuing that talk last night on our Prime Time with Sean.
That's right. She was blasting the mainstream media for the media's mob mentality. And she said she's tired of it. That's why she's speaking out. And it could hurt her career. She says it shouldn't. She said, Sean, you know firsthand, they'll come after you and they'll come after anyone who supports a Republican agenda, a conservative agenda. Listen to this.
If there are any independent voices out there, if there are any journalists who are not beating the same drum and giving the same talking points, then we pay the price. They can't take down the substance of what you're saying, right? They can't go after the things that matter. So they smear you personally. They go after your integrity. They go after your reputation as a person and as a professional, and they'll stop at nothing. So, I'm not the only one, and I'm just like, I'm done, right? I'm tired of it. And they don't get to write my story anymore. They don't get to speak for me. I want to say loudly and clearly to anybody who's listening, I am not owned. Nobody owns me.
And essentially what she's saying is when she says they, she's talking about the 85% of the mainstream media that she says is liberal. 85% registered Democrats. And she said, any journalists who are not beating the same drum, giving the same talking points, we pay the price, she said. Meanwhile, let's talk politics. There's a family feud on the Democrat side.
Oh, gosh. Do you remember when Kamala Harris, she had that radio interview with Breakfast Club? It was released. We talked about it. She admitted that she smoked pot. When they asked her if she was pro-legalizing marijuana, she said, of course I smoked marijuana. Half my family's from Jamaica. Are you kidding me? Well, her own father had a problem with that. But listen to what she said on the Breakfast Club.
They say you oppose legalizing weed.
That's not true.
I know.
and look, I joke about it, half joking. Half my family's from Jamaica. Are you kidding me?
Have you ever smoked?
I have.
Okay. Like in
and
college,
I inhaled. I did inhale.
Okay. It's real hysterical for the former attorney general of that state to talk about doing something illegal, laughing about it, giggling about it, and trying to get some traction for it. Among the people that were upset by it, her dad. Donald Harris from Jamaica, an economics professor at Stanford University, says this: my dear departed grandmothers, as well as my deceased parents, must be turning in their grave right now to see their family's name, reputation, and proud Jamaican identity being connected in any way jokingly or not with the fraudulent stereotype of pot-smoking, joy-seeking, and in pursuit of identity politics. Man, what a blast at his daughter who wants to be the next president.
No kidding. He added, and he had sent this statement to Jamaica Global Online. He said, speaking for myself and my immediate Jamaican family, we wish to categorically disassociate ourselves from this travesty. The campaign had no comment as of yesterday. It should be pointed out that Kamala Harris's parents divorced when she was younger, and her mother raised her and her sister.
But her father still had a big part of her life, according to reports.
Today she'll be with Al Sharpton in New York City, trying to do her best to get the African-American vote. And they'll be at Harlem at Sylvia's. So we'll see if she's going to comment on that, going in or out of that restaurant.
People are going to ask her, hey, what's the deal with your dad? So stay tuned for that.
All right, let's hand it over to Jillian, who has some more headlines for us. Hi, Jillian.
That's a good Thursday morning to you. Let's begin with this. A Coast Guard lieutenant accused of plotting a mass domestic terror attack is due in court today. Prosecutors say Christopher Paul Hassan had a hit list of possible targets, including Democratic leaders and journalists. He also wanted to kill every last person on Earth. The self-proclaimed white nationalist stockpiling 15 firearms with more than 1,000 rounds of ammo in his basement in Maryland. House Democrats preparing to challenge President Trump's emergency declaration on the southern border. They plan to file a resolution tomorrow with a vote expected by mid-March. Even if it passes the Democratic-led House, it will still need to clear the Republican-controlled Senate to terminate the declaration. A Duke basketball player's shoe blows out less than a minute into a game. Watch this. Zion Williamson's foot tearing right through his Nike sneaker as he dribbled away from a UNC player. In a statement, Nike says, quote, while this is an isolated occurrence, we are working to identify the issue. The Tar Heel beat top-ranked Duke 88-72. Williamson has a minor knee sprain. He's expected to be the #1 NBA draft pick, but I'm sure he'll be.
Yeah, that is not just a basketball player. That is a guy that's supposed to be maybe the next LeBron James. Yeah. And for him to get hurt in the first minute of the game, that could single-handedly tank Nike's stock. Well, I mean,
really?
for the shoe to blow out like that, and for his career to be in jeopardy, that's
terrible.
a strain.
The only way this would be worse, and I'm so sorry that he's injured, the way it would be worse if it were like the last point and they needed that as the tiebreaker, right?
But it's really not about the game. It's about this guy who probably be one of the richest players in sports shortly.
And suddenly with the video of that shoe blowing up, you're right, Brian. Bad for Nike.
Yep.
They'll do some explaining later today as well. Meanwhile, 6:13 here in New York City, President Trump slamming Andrew McCabe after his media tour.
He really looks to me like sort of a poor man's J. Edgar Hoover. I think he's a disaster.
Well, now Missouri Senator Josh Hawley is ready to hold McCabe accountable, demanding answers. The senator joins us live next.
Plus, a police officer swept country star Miranda Lambert off her feet, and now he's being swept off foot patrol. We'll explain coming up.
The front seat's broken and the axle's dragging.
I think Andrew McCabe has made a fool out of himself over the last couple of days, and he really looks to me like sort of a poor man's J. Edgar Hoover. I think he's a disaster.
President Trump blasting former acting FBI Director Andrew McCabe, who detailed discussions of the ousting of the president during his book tour this past week. Our next guest is now demanding answers from the FBI and what he's calling a disturbing counterintelligence probe. Here to explain, Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, who just sent this letter to the FBI Director, Christopher Wray. Senator, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, so were you scratching your head when you heard Mr. McCabe on television talking about, yeah, we were all together, we were sitting there talking about who's in, who's out, who could possibly get rid of the president with the 25th Amendment? These were people at the DOJ and the FBI. The 25th Amendment does not provide for them to be the pickers on who goes.
You know, nor does the Constitution provide for them to be setting the national security or foreign policy of the United States, but yet that seems to be what they think they were doing. I mean, you have Andrew McCabe now admitting that he launched a counterintelligence investigation of the president because he didn't like the president's statements on foreign policy. I tell you what it really sounds like to me, Steve. It sounds like to me the FBI didn't want any oversight. The FBI didn't want to be held accountable. And when the president and others tried to do so, they retaliated against him. So I want to know. I want to hear from the FBI. I want to know who launched this counterintelligence investigation. I want to know why. I want to know who oversaw it. I want to know who was involved with it. And I want to know now.
Sure, absolutely. We all do. Now, it sounds like the Mueller probe, according to some news reports, could be drawing to a conclusion in the next week or two. Are you confident that the Inspector General at the Department of Justice, Michael Horowitz, Mr. Huber, who's been called in to take a look at the DOJ and the FBI, will be able to figure out who the bad actors were during this time?
Well, I hope that the Inspector General's investigation will go on. But look, there's a role here for Congress to exercise oversight. That these agencies, the FBI, needs to be held accountable. I don't want to go back to the day, Steve, when the FBI was collecting information on political leaders, the J. Edgar Hoover days, where they tried to influence the outcome of policy in this country. Right. I mean, that's not democracy. So we need to have oversight here. That's why I've demanded answers from the FBI, and I'm willing to take whatever steps are necessary to get those answers.
Right. And before you go, I know you are there in the Judiciary Committee. Have you heard whether or not the Mueller probe is wrapping up?
I have not heard directly. I look forward to it wrapping up. It should have been wrapped up a long time ago. The special counsel needs to bring his evidence forward, if he has any, and let's get on with it. The American people deserve to have this thing wrapped up and over with.
All right. I think a lot of people feel exactly the same way. From the great state of Missouri, Josh Hawley, thank you very much, Senator, for joining us live.
Thank you.
All right, 6:20 now here in New York City. Jussie Smollett expected to face a judge at 1:30 Chicago time. Our next guest was a victim of violent crime and a Chicago native and says he owes everybody an apology to the city. And Billboard sending a clear message February 21st. First up, Virginia Governor Ralph Northam has canceled his racial reconciliation event over student protests. The visit at the Virginia University Union, a historically black college, was the first stop on an apology tour after a racist photograph in his medical school yearbook surfaced. Northam tweeting, he will respect the wishes of the student body. Meanwhile, Nike releases a special edition Colin Kaepernick jersey days after he settled agreements with the NFL. The Kaepernick icon jersey is $150. The former San Francisco 49ers player gained national attention in 2016 when he refused to stand for the national anthem to protest racism and police brutality. And that is some of the news, Brian and Ainsley.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, we've got the Fox News alert. Today in Chicago, Jussie Smollett due in court. The Empire actor now officially indicted on felony charges for filing a false police report, and it could get worse from there. He's alleging a hate crime by Trump supporters.
Our next guest, a Chicago native and violent crime victim himself, says this is my city and Jussie Smollett tried to destroy it and is now demanding an apology for everyone in his city. Here with more is William Kelly, the host of the Citizen Kelly radio show. Good morning to you, William. Thanks for being on with us.
Thank you, Ainsley. I think I'm being told that this is the first time someone from Chicago has actually been on national TV to talk about Chicago. So we're making history, Ainsley.
All right. Well, get the story straight for us. Why do you want him to apologize to everyone in Chicago?
Well, this is very serious. I know that it's almost become a comedy of errors on the part of Jussie Smollett, which is why actors should never direct. That's the lesson here for actors, number one. But the fact of the matter is that the crime in Chicago was already epidemic. Okay, we had, I think 26 out of 30 murders go unsolved in the city of Chicago since Jussie perpetrated this hoax, allegedly, in my opinion, allegedly. We've had over 106 shootings, 26 murders, and guess how many arrests, Ainsley?
How many?
Six arrests. Okay, the manpower of the Chicago Police Department has been completely misdirected towards solving this hoax, which has created a national firestorm against my city, okay? The city of Chicago, the city that I was born and raised in, that I love with all my heart, that I was raised to believe was the greatest city in the history of the world, okay? And whenever I travel now throughout the country, throughout the world, the first thing I hear from people is crime, murder, and now Jussie Smollett. we cannot let this go without an apology and, in my opinion, an arrest, a prosecution, and a punishment. This particular hate hoax has to be atoned for.
And the thing is, it's not about him, it's about others that could falsely do this and the ramifications. Now, you're a repeated victim of violent crime yourself. Now, just so when it comes to Jussie, this easily could have been a race riot. When you talk about they attacked me because I was black, they threw bleach on me, they attacked me because I was gay, this is MAGA country. You know, there's people who are already on the edge when they wake up in the morning. All they need is something to set them off.
Exactly right. First of all, the good news is that nobody in Chicago believed this hoax, okay? Because, first of all, anyone who's ever been to Chicago knows this is not MAGA country. Despite all of my efforts on my, the Citizen Kelly radio show, we have not become MAGA country here in the city of Chicago quite yet. Okay, but the combination of first of all, this allegedly took place at 2 a.m. in the morning during a polar vortex, and bleach was allegedly poured over Jussie Smollett's head. Anyone who's been in Chicago for the last month knows that if any liquid was poured over your head, it would be frozen to your face for life, okay? I'm not a detective, but I do know that this hoax did not add up from the word go, not to mention the fact that anyone who's ever been raised in Chicago knows that the fact that nobody was shot during this alleged incident proves right there that this is a hoax.
He kept his Subway sandwich.
Exactly.
He kept his phone.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
All right, William, thank you so much for being on with us.
I'm a little concerned, though, about the Chicago police who actually exposed this hoax, because I'm afraid they might go down in history the way the Watergate, the night security guard at the Watergate Hotel is going to go down in history, because there's more to this hoax. We don't really know the motive, who else is involved, and I think that the Chicago Police Department may have exposed the Democrat, hate crime industrial complex.
Well, see, there might be an accomplice involved. We know that.
He's going to court today.
William Kelly, thanks.
Thank you, William.
Straight ahead, the U.S.-born ISIS bride fled to Syria to help ISIS kill Americans. Now she just wants to come home. Should she come home?
Do you think you deserve a punishment for what you did?
Maybe therapy lessons.
But will the law and the U.S. government let her back in America? And does she have a deductible that we should get her therapy?
Plus, Robert Mueller's Russia probe could be released as soon as next week, but the judge says that would be bad timing.
Why, Judge?
He explains
you have
why.
To tell me why.
Police while you're abroad next week?
That'll be totally up to the new Attorney General. He's a tremendous man, a tremendous person who really respects this country and respects the Justice Department. So that'll be totally up to him. The new Attorney General, yes.
Okay, we got a new Attorney General, and he's going to be the decider of when we get to see these things. Judge Andrew Napolitano is senior judicial analyst and the host of Liberty File. Fox Nation joins us live.
Good morning.
We just had Josh Hawley on. He's on the Judiciary Committee. He's only hearing what we're hearing. There are news reports that the Mueller probe could come out next week. But then again, you look at how things line up. We have a new Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, leaving. He had said he was going to oversee it. So what do you think?
I don't think it's going to come out as one report, and I don't think it's going to come out next week. The reason I said I hope it doesn't come out next week is because the President of the United States is 10,000 miles away, doing very, very serious work. And I don't think he wants, and the world wants or expects his attention to be diverted to this. The issue is going to be, will the entire report be made public? Chuck Grassley, the former chair of the Judiciary Committee, Republican, has been lobbying that the entire report, whatever is in there, good or bad, the public is entitled to see it.
Absolutely.
So here's what will happen.
Appropriate redactions aside,
well,
if someone's security is in jeopardy.
Yes. Here's what will happen, though. Once Congress gets its hands on that report, any member of Congress can bring it to the floor of the House or the floor of the Senate and release it with impunity. There's no legal recourse against them.
And it becomes a political document.
Correct. Now, what else is going to happen in the week after next when President Trump is back from Vietnam? Michael Cohen's public testimony.
I thought it was next week.
Oh, excuse me. It is next week. It is while he's away. I'm
right.
sorry.
And he can't talk about the case. He's going to talk about what a horrible person Donald Trump is.
This is just a political claptrap. We think. I mean, maybe there's going to be some other allegation. I don't know.
Yep.
But Mueller's report, in my view, probably will come in stages, and parts of it will be a summary.
Judge, which makes you think that? I just thought, here it is. I'm done.
Because what makes me think that is people that I've been talking to, as well as the fact that there are parts of it that are really not related to other parts. And if Bob Mueller does release the report in 2 weeks and closes down shop, then he's got to pass certain prosecutions, like Roger Stone's. Stone's going to be in court this afternoon.
Trying to stay
onto the task of regular prosecutor.
When DOJ was investigating Hillary Clinton, and James Comey came out and he listed all the things that she had done wrong, all the laws that she had broken, and then he said, but we've decided not to indict her. It's now coming out that the legal counsel there at the FBI or out with DOJ, the one who said you can't wiretap, Jim Baker,
right?
He is now coming out and saying his recommendation was, when he read the law, Hillary Clinton did break the law, she should be prosecuted.
It's a recommendation with which I agreed, and we discussed this many, many, many times before President Trump was elected. The evidence, in my view, of her guilt is overwhelming. You know, Andrew McCabe, for all of his credibility problems, did say something that was very interesting. I don't know if he said this at the time. There ought to have been a special counsel for Hillary Clinton. It should have been separated from Jim Comey and separated from Loretta Lynch, who had been appointed by Barack Obama.
But, what James Baker went on to say during this closed-door testimony, which now some portions of the Radcliffe interrogation have been released, it shows that James Baker said, yeah, I thought she should be prosecuted until the very end of the process, and I was talked out of it by people at the Department of Justice and the FBI.
Political
I wonder
decision.
who that would be.
Well, of course, we know what happened. They talked him out of wanting her to be indicted because they thought she was going to be president and their boss.
He went on to say that she goes, I ultimately didn't go for it because I couldn't prove beyond a shadow of a doubt the intent to deceive.
You know what? You can infer intent, and besides, there is a portion of that statute, failure to safeguard state secrets, which you can violate by gross negligence.
Right.
And for gross negligence, you don't have to prove intent.
Okay, real quickly,
and Comey knows that.
Chicago, Jussie Smollett, how serious is this?
I think his greater worry is the potential federal prosecution. By mailing a letter to himself, a threatening letter to himself, he committed postal fraud. 5 to 10 years. That's 2 to 3 in jail. That's 2 to 3 times what he faces for lying to the Chicago cops.
He said, and they had the hazmat team there and the resources they needed to secure that environment.
He cost the city and Cook County a fortune in resources and money.
Do we know for sure he wrote that letter?
No, we don't. No, we don't. But the feds are investigating it.
Apparently, yesterday at the grand jury, the brothers said we were not involved in it. But the brothers told him everything else. He said, "Yeah, he paid us $3,500. He timed it so that we were going to go to Nigeria the next day." They have spilled the beans on.
I am going to guess he did not tell his own lawyers the truth. If he told his own lawyers the truth, there was a time, maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 days ago, they could have gone to the prosecutors and worked at a deal. Now it is too late.
It's so funny you say that because I was wondering, like, how does that conversation go down? You hire your attorney, you say, I didn't do this, I'm accused of this, I didn't do it. Or, he wasn't even accused at this point.
Right.
He hired the attorney, and then does he say to him, oh, yeah, I actually did that?
So the attorney says you have one defense remaining, temporary insanity.
Right.
Which I don't think would wash, but I don't know what other defense there is.
He's hired Mark Geragos. What does that say?
He's not licensed, though, in that area. He can't
well,
be
he can get himself licensed for just one case. I guess they want a show trial. That's what Mark does, and he's very good at it.
All right. He just got a whole bunch of Kaepernick money. So he can definitely
did he represent Kaepernick?
Yes, please don't yell at me, Judge.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
no, I'm just excited about
You saw him yell at me? You saw that?
loud.
Yeah, so you got the money.
I love you, Brian.
All right, good. Well,
I love you, Brian.
All right, good. Well, I'm all forgiven, Judge.
Thank you very much.
Where's Jillian?
She's right behind you. She's got the headlines.
Please don't yell at me. Good morning. Let's get you caught up on your news, starting with this. The Trump administration refusing to allow an American ISIS bride back into the U.S. Hoda Muthana is begging to return home with her son after leaving for Syria in 2014. In a statement, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says she's not an American citizen, writing, quote, she does not have any legal basis, no valid U.S. passport, no right to a passport, nor any visa to travel to the United States. Her lawyer, though, denies that claim and says her birth certificate proves she was born in New Jersey. Stay tuned for more on that. You remember the woman who made headlines scaling the Statue of Liberty on the 4th of July? Well, she's back. Teresa Okumu was convicted in the dangerous stint protesting immigration policies. And now she's behind bars in Austin, Texas, for doing the same thing. The activist climbing 5 stories without any ropes, sitting on a beam for 8 hours with an Abolish ICE banner. She eventually climbed down on her own. Charges are pending. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez responds to a critical billboard with a clip from The Office. The Times Square sign reads, quote, Amazon pullout, thanks for nothing, AOC. The group behind the message blames the Democratic Socialist for Amazon canceling its New York headquarters. Ocasio-Cortez tweeting that the sign is like a of this scene from The Office.
We have bubblegum shrimp, Red Lobster down there. You know, this is the heart of civilization right here.
Ocasio-Cortez trying to express that she thinks the Times Square sign is out of touch with real New Yorkers. Country star Miranda Lambert is a brand new police wife, but apparently the NYPD officer is getting so much attention now that he had to be taken off foot patrol.
If you're looking for love.
Officer Brendan McLaughlin announced their surprise marriage last week. He's reportedly on police driver duty for the time being because he's getting so much attention.
There's so much to that story.
He tried marrying famous. It didn't work, right?
No, he was allegedly engaged to a girl.
He didn't marry her because she was famous.
No, but they were married. Who was he married to before?
He was engaged to a girl.
No, who was Miranda?
Oh, she's married to the guy, Blake Shelton.
Blake Shelton. Yeah, that didn't work. So go everyday man.
Okay.
Right.
By the way, Chicago police just tweeted they have taken Empire star Jussie Smollett into custody and a bond hearing at 1:30. Janice joins us right now
Do
with
an awkward
the Fox
toss. Someone who's not in custody.
Well, I mean, you don't know my past. Read the book, Mostly Sunny. Okay, let's take a look at the maps real quick. You know, it feels warmer outside because it is. We had colder, warmer air move in last night, and it was mainly a rain event. We still have some snowbanks behind me, and if we could go to the maps, and I will show you what I'm talking about. 51 here in New York. Oh, that's the forecast highs. Okay, no, it's not currently 51. Let's take a look at the... Oh, my gosh. It's all falling apart at the seams. Here is the precipitation for the Southwest. This is a big story, my friends. We're going to get snow as far south as Tucson, Arizona. It was snowing in Las Vegas last night. I kind of wish I was in Las Vegas right now. Feeling a little lucky.
All right. And we're lucky to have you, Janice.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Listen to her.
Thanks, Janice.
All right, straight ahead, a new wave of migrants now at our doorstep, and it's the same border area where Beto O'Rourke vowed to tear down the wall. Griff Jenkins is live on the ground, and he's in Mexico. Coming up next.
And remember the land deal scandal surrounding Bernie Sanders' wife? Could that come back to haunt his 2020 campaign?
Police while you're abroad next week?
That'll be totally up to the new Attorney General. He's a tremendous man, a tremendous person who really respects this country and respects the Justice Department. So that'll be totally up to him. The new Attorney General, yes.
Okay, we got a new Attorney General, and he's going to be the decider of when we get to see these things. Judge Andrew Napolitano is senior judicial analyst and the host of Liberty File. Fox Nation joins us live.
Good morning.
We just had Josh Hawley on. He's on the Judiciary Committee. He's only hearing what we're hearing. There are news reports that the Mueller probe could come out next week. But then again, you look at how things line up. We have a new Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, leaving. He had said he was going to oversee it. So what do you think?
I don't think it's going to come out as one report, and I don't think it's going to come out next week. The reason I said I hope it doesn't come out next week is because the President of the United States is 10,000 miles away doing very, very serious work. And I don't think he wants, and the world wants or expects his attention to be diverted to this. The issue is going to be, will the entire report be made public? Chuck Grassley, the former chair of the Judiciary Committee, Republican, has been lobbying that the entire report, whatever is in there, good or bad, the public is entitled to see it.
Absolutely.
So here's what will happen.
Appropriate redactions aside,
well,
if someone's security is in jeopardy.
Yes. Here's what will happen, though. Once Congress gets its hands on that report, any member of Congress can bring it to the floor of the House or the floor of the Senate and release it with impunity. There's no legal recourse
against them. And it becomes a political document.
Correct, correct. Now, what else is going to happen in the week after next when President Trump is back from Vietnam? Michael Cohen's public testimony.
I thought it was next week.
Oh, excuse me. It is next week. It is while he's away. I'm sorry.
And he can't talk about the case. He's going to talk about what a horrible person Donald Trump
This is just a political claptrap. We think. I mean, maybe there's going to be some other allegation. I don't know.
Yep.
But Mueller's report, in my view, probably will come in stages, and parts of it will be a summary.
Judge, which makes you think that? I just thought, here it is. I'm done.
Because what makes me think that is people that I've been talking to, as well as the fact that there are parts of it that are really not related to other parts. And if Bob Mueller does release the report in 2 weeks and closes down shop, then he's got to pass certain prosecutions, like Roger Stone's. Stone's going to be in court this afternoon.
Trying to stay
onto the task of regular prosecutors.
When DOJ was investigating Hillary Clinton, and James Comey came out and he listed all the things that she had done wrong, all the laws that she had broken, and then he said, but we've decided not to indict her. It's now coming out that the legal counsel there at the FBI or out with DOJ, the one who said you can't wiretap, Jim Baker,
right?
He is now coming out and saying his recommendation was, when he read the law, Hillary Clinton did break the law, she should be prosecuted.
It's a recommendation with which I agreed, and we discussed this many, many, many times before President Trump was elected. The evidence, in my view, of her guilt is overwhelming. You know, Andrew McCabe, for all of his credibility problems, did say something that was very interesting. I don't know if he said this at the time. There ought to have been a special counsel for Hillary Clinton. It should have been separated from Jim Comey and separated from Loretta Lynch, who had been appointed by Barack Obama.